G'day folks, welcome back to the channel. It's been a while since I've uploaded anything because I've had COVID in the last couple of weeks. I've also started a new job, which I'm really excited about. I'll be going back to work as a disability advocate. I'm really privileged to be able to do that kind of work because it's definitely something I'm very passionate about. This is a off-the-cuff video, so sorry if the lighting isn't very good or if there's a bit of noise and background noise and stuff, because I don't live in a studio. I've got some decent microphones and stuff like that, but I've had them all packed away because I've had the two boys running around. And we've just been playing and hanging out. I was very lucky when I was diagnosed with ADHD, because the same day that I was diagnosed with ADHD was also the same day that I actually started working in disability advocacy. And I got to discover the parts of myself that I was while I was already in a position that spoke to my values that I had and didn't know that I had. Spoke to my principles that I also didn't really know that I had. I'm sure a lot of people out there who were diagnosed later in life, I'm sure a lot of people out there just in general, have spent a long time being talked to about what symptoms are and the lived experience of what it's like to live with ADHD and whatever other complications that come along with those sort of things, because invariably there is something extra. A lot of people that I speak to online, a lot of people that I speak to in person, a lot of people identify very heavily with the masking portion of having ADHD. Masking the hidden disabilities that we have and share and deal with. The social facade that we have to adopt to be able to get from the start of the day to the end of the day. For people like me who weren't diagnosed until much later, it's really easy to fall into a mind trap where you start to wonder which parts of you are ADHD and which parts of you are mask. And there's a deep sense of loss. And it can be incredibly difficult. It can be incredibly difficult to unpack all of that. Because people start talking about us as though we are our symptoms. And we've been spoken to in such a usually pretty unsupportive manner the entire time that we've internalized all of those things. The lazy airhead, space cadet, hothead, whatever sort of stuff. And we genuinely ask ourselves, do I have a personality? You do. It's there. You've done all the work. You've been meeting people your entire life. You've gone and done things that you liked doing. You're sitting down and watching a YouTube video now. There is a something under there. But how do we find ourselves underneath what we think the mask is? Well, you need to spend time with yourself. In a very true and genuine way. It's not something people with ADHD are often very comfortable with doing. You may be one of the lucky ones. You may be like me, who never really experienced that drop, I guess, is swim would be maybe another word for it, which is if there's any Ian M. Banks fans out there from the algebraist. But that sense that all the things that you thought you knew and thought you understood not being true, it's a momentary feeling. It's not a true and accurate representation of who you are. So you need to spend time with yourself to figure out who you are, if you haven't done it before. There's many different paths to figuring out what that can look like. Some people talk about meditation, and that can be a very good grounding technique in the moment, especially in the moment of heightened stress or panic. But meditation isn't sitting with your legs crossed on the floor, at least not in the original sense. Meditation was a thought process. I don't know if you've ever heard of what Stoic philosophy is. A lot of modern cognitive behavioral therapies stem from Stoic philosophy, and it's, I think, worth investigating for all of you out there, and we'll talk more about that later. I've got to go. I just had to deal with some stuff. So we were talking about Stoic philosophy and meditations. If you've ever seen Gladiator, the character that Russell Crowe was very distraught over losing at the beginning of the film, the old grey-haired man, it was Marcus Aurelius. Marcus Aurelius is a very famous Stoic philosopher, maybe probably the most famous Stoic philosopher. He was considered a very wise and calm-minded king. He was one of the most powerful men in the world at the times, and he wrote a series of journals that we now know as meditations. What makes them unique is that they were never meant to be published. They were never public memoirs or anything like that. They were never parts of Roman public record. So it is raw. Raw and true. The reason I mention it is because I think all of the people that have ADHD that I've recommended reading some quotes to, or at least investigating a bit about him, have really identified with his thought process and identified with the ideals that Stoicism instills is probably the wrong word, and even ideals is probably the wrong word. Stoicism is a way to live your life. There's no particular tenets, there's no particular holdings or faiths or credos or mottos or observations that you need to adhere to. It bids you to discover who you are at your core, so that you can determine the things that are outside of your control and spend no time worrying about those things. And to look inside yourself and look between the people closest to you, your community closest to you, and find ways to live on purpose to benefit everybody around you. That's just good. That's just good, clean fun. I'm sure we've all heard the different sort of, be the change you want to see in the world and all that sort of stuff, and it's all absolutely true. Do we as individuals have the power to affect the entire globe to change? No, as individuals, no, we don't have that. We can't do that in isolation. Does that mean we shouldn't do things to make our lives good and make the people whose lives are around us good as well? No, of course we should. It's a good thing to do that. Why am I talking about that? Because it's a path to finding out who you are underneath what you think is your mask. Or what you think is maybe just your ADHD symptoms. An important way. And I would encourage you to look in your magic cabinet and pull out any of the magic tools that you need to be comfortable with who you are, because you already are a person. I don't think I'm going to edit these ones. I think I'm just going to smush them together and put them up tonight. No music, no nothing. Yeah. A long week. Thank you for watching. I'm the ADHDad. I'm still proud of you. Keep going.